Right. So what about dieting? What about dieting as a natural? So you've done, okay, so we know now that you love bulking even as a natural, but what about with the diet? So how hard are you dieting when you are on a diet?
So I guess it's, for me, I mean, I've always, well, since I've done well in shows to a certain point, it's always been very high carbohydrate consumption. So usually anywhere for clients from 2 to 3 to 4 times lean body weight. Most of the time it'll be around 3 to start off with. So if, you know, if someone's 200 pounds, you know, they're eating 600 grams of carbs a day at the start of a diet.
That's insane.
You know? So protein is usually done on 1 gram per lean pound of body weight. This is probably something that a lot of people don't do and usually go way over. So it's not, so it's not per pound of body weight, it's per lean pound. So what I would often do with educated eye of prepping clients for the last 10 years or so, when I get a client physique pictures at the start, I usually be able to have a good gauge on where they're going to be show lean. So I would usually base their protein on that, and then maybe an extra 20 just for a bit of a buffer, and then that would come right down. So I mean, my protein this year was only kind of 170 grams a day. It wasn't excessively high. It probably started about 200 and then came down. And then it's a very low fat approach. So most of the time it's anywhere between 0.2 to 0.3 top end. It doesn't usually go over that. So per lean pound of body weight as well. So for me, so like for a diet, for me, my typical sort of like starting macros for a diet would be 400 grams of carbs to 450, 180 to 170 grams of protein, and then usually about 35 to 40 fats top end.
The thing is, actually, just about probably 90%. You just described my diet. That's exactly what I do. Maybe I eat just a little bit more because I'm heavier, but that's it. And that's what I believe in, basically, you know, the low fat, high carbs approach. Okay, so what do you say to people who thinks that, you know, carbs make you fat, insulin makes you fat, and all that bullshit? Because I think that, and I'm pretty sure that was a time when you believed that too.
I wouldn't ever say it was that carbs make you fat. I just didn't believe that it was possible to get in shape while having them. I mean, I guess the sort of basic fundamentals is that if you are understanding that your carbohydrates are the most efficient energy source for you, okay, it's the most easiest way for your body to utilize those. So for people who are, let's say you've got 2 guys, one person is eating 400 grams of protein a day, and the other person is eating with 0 carb, and the other person's eating 200 grams of protein and 200 grams of carbs a day. Calories are the same, okay? But what you will often find is that person who's eating 400 grams of protein a day, their body is having to try and convert. It's like if you, rather than take the direct route down the motorway, you've got to take this scenic route on how to get your body to utilize those carbohydrates. So by having those carbohydrates in your system straight away, you've got them there stored in the blood, in the muscle, in the liver. So effectively, you've got a very efficient way for an energy source to be there. Now, obviously, from a bodybuilding standpoint as well, that physique looks different because the person's muscles are more pressed against the skin, so you've got a fuller look. You probably find that you have more energy to train harder. So correct. Therefore, then you're not creating a false economy, because I would rather have someone eating more food with more carbohydrates, the energy to train. So therefore, they then do more because they have more energy. They can lift heavier. So all these kind of things are very, very basic and simple when you think about it. But until someone makes that switch, it's very hard for them to understand, because I was the same when I started. I made that switch and was like, no way, that's not possible. How is that person eating 400 grams of carbs a day? It's not possible.
Correct. I was the same.
And then you do it and you start to see, you probably are looking at about a 2-week window where you will look worse rather than better. So if someone was on that 400 grams of protein diet a day, 0 carb, and then they was on 200, you switch that over, you'll look like a bag of shit for about 2 weeks. You just look very watery and think, no way, carbs aren't for me. My body doesn't respond to carbohydrates very, very well. And then you will see that you'll start to get tighter, harder, rounder, and there's an adjustment period. You have to get your body efficient at using those carbohydrates as well. So it's not just like a 2-day fix where you suddenly just start looking better. Yeah. You've got to get used to that, and you've also got to create a demand for those carbohydrates as well. It's all very well you eating 400 grams of carbs a day, but I'm doing cardio every day. I'm lifting heavy, and and I'm training damn hard in the gym when I'm going in there as well. I'm not just kind of trickling through some top sets,
Yeah.
So there's definitely a big difference in that, and I've seen that with clients over a period of time. Couldn't understand why people aren't getting in shape, and then you watch some of their training, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. They're just not really doing a lot.
Yeah. And
So yeah.
what's the lowest calorie amount you ever go to?
Oh wow. In 2020, when I'm on the pro card, I did days of about 1,400 calories. Now days, I mean like maybe a Thursday, Friday, but my Saturday, because I was carb cycling at the time, my Saturday might have been 800 to 1,000 grams of carbs. So the calories were about 4,000 or so, maybe plus. So if you averaged it out across the week, the actual carbohydrate consumption was about 300 grams a day. When you averaged it out, it's just that it was kind of like to kind of dig some more body fat off. And same again, I was coming down from very heavy. This time round, I mean, my carbs didn't get below 300. The fats were at like 25 to 30 for quite a while, and that was pretty miserable. And the protein was about 170 or so. So whatever the calories work out, for that. But you're looking about 2.4, 2.3, something like that. But I mean, it's different every year. Depends where you've come from, what you've got to do to get down. I mean, you look at a Chris Bumstead. He simply has got to eat that little to make weight for a show and get in shape. So I'm sure if he had no weight care, he'd probably get in shape on a lot more food. But that's the issue. So
it's funny you mentioned Bumstead, because you and Chris are the two examples I always bring up for my clients. When we go below the 2,000 calorie limit, it's almost like a threshold. If you go below that, they immediately start starving and they immediately start suffering. And I always tell them that, listen, you are not even 200 pounds. You are natural. You don't really have muscle. Yeah, of course, I'm very polite when I say that. And I always say, you don't need more than 2,000 calories if Chris or you yourself, with really good genetics, with PED in Chris' case, and still needs to go below that. So even I go below that sometimes. So
yeah,
it's not that bad.
Where the difference is, and what people don't understand, it's the length of period you do that for.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've always said to people, like, they say, oh, I've over dieted this year. Like, I have a lot of my clients who come down from like high body fat levels. They might be dieting for 10 months, but they've only really got in shape at the end. There's been people who maybe do a qualifier in May, June time, and they're not competing in the British finals till October, and they're already in shape. That's how you over diet, and that's how you over diet on low calories, because it's running low calories for too long a period of time. That's why I would do the bigger days, and then you said it wouldn't just be 1,300 calories every single day. That's miserable, and you're probably going to look like a dead bird by the end of it. So
and of course, carbs matter, because being on, I don't know, 1,800 calories with 300 grams of fat is really different from having the same amount of calories with 50 grams of, carbs.
Of course.
Carbs.
Yes. Yeah.
That's different. Yeah. When you keep your carbs quite high, at least, 30-40% of your overall calorie intake, that's actually not that bad. You can go really low like that.
Yep. And you'll still be hungry all the time. And you're what I mean, you're still, even though you're probably eating a decent amount of food still, it's like, it's a lot of volume of food sometimes, but it's actually just very, very low calorie because the fats are so low. So,
Yes. And of course, people forget that you, as a natural athlete, you only have one hormone you can actually manipulate in your body, and that's insulin. There's nothing else really left. And that's why you use the carbs as an athlete should use, really, all the time. Right. We covered now. So you love walking. Now we know how do you do the cut, and how do you train? How do you work out? What's your training workout philosophy? You train to failure? You train a lot? Are you a volume guy? Are you an intensity guy? So what's your approach for yourself?
So the last 10 months has probably been the biggest transition of training for me from how I ever used to train. I would typically kind of pyramid up to kind of a main top set. I would probably do 2 or 3 sets at a heavy weight. So, pick a weight I could do for kind of 6 to 8 repetitions. Usually, let's say for chest, it might be something like 15 to 20 sets or something, like it was a fair amount. Now that's probably halved in volume, but we kind of use this kind of the JP approach now, which is kind of load back offsets.
I love
so
that.
You've got, yeah. So I found that's been very, very good for me to be able to get, you know, the maximum amount of strength. So using a lot lower rep ranges to get to a top set. So my kind of thing would be feeder sets before. So I would do, you know, 10 reps on 20, 10 reps on 30, 10 reps on 40, 10 reps on 50, and then I'd work at 60s for maybe a five or six. So you're, you know, fatiguing that muscle by the time you get to that. So you already got a pump by the time you're doing the main first set. So the idea with this is that you're effectively using a lot lower rep ranges, only 1 or 2 reps until you get to that main working weight of 60. And then I'm then obviously going, you know, as hard as I can. And then you're usually taking off like 10-20% load, and then you're going for a 10 to 12 range. So you're trying to get strong across the 2 different rep ranges. And that's been really effective. Still fair moderate to high volume, really. I guess there might be 3 lots of pressing exercises and then maybe 2 lots of fly exercises, but they're only 2 sets of each. So it maybe is only like 10 to 12 sets maximum per body group.
It's actually, I'm only smiling because everything you say is exactly the same what I say in every single video, and that's what I approach. To be honest, sitting now here and listening to you, it almost sounds like you are a science guy rather than a bro science guy, because everything you just say has been backed up by science. You know, the lower rep range, the frequency, the moderate volume for naturals I'm talking about. That has been studied, and what everything you just said is backed up by science. That's how it works for naturals.
I mean, I wouldn't really say I'm a science guy as such, with the fact that I base a lot of my
knowledge,
I guess, beliefs and knowledge on my actual going through the processes of doing
experience,
what works, experience. Because I mean, you know, I could read that in a textbook, try it. Like, I mean, you know, I tried push pull legs for a while, and I understand the science behind that and why it works, but I didn't like it. Didn't like it at all.
Yes, I tried. So, I don't like it. Yeah.
You know, I couldn't recover from them training sessions quickly enough. So I think things like that. I mean, you know, I'd say like, you know, what might like it's like the whole thing of, you know, not doing fasted cardio, because science says like it doesn't really matter when you do your thing, but you know, people have been bodybuilders have been getting shredded for years doing fasted cardio. That's something I'm going to continue to do, you know, whether science says it or not. So it's kind of what I'd probably say. It's probably somewhere in the middle. A lot of common sense, I say, would probably be the you know, probably where I sit on the fence of whether I'm science or bro science. It's a lot of common sense to training and what feels good, and you know, you progress off really.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. To be honest, sometimes personal preference just override the science.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
I kind of know what's the best exercise for certain body parts, but if I don't like that exercise, I'm not going to be doing it.
100%. Yeah.
Same as a diet, you know, that if someone proves, which that's never going to happen, but if someone proves that low carb is the best diet, I'm still not going to do that because I hate it. I'm just not going to do it.